Hi, Maud. This is Ray Bone, your lobbyist. Uh, nice to be with you again this year. It certainly is turning out to be a different year. Uh, the challenge I've actually found myself going to introductory lobbyist seminars to find out how to lobby in this electronic era. It certainly it certainly is a new experience. I'll tell you that. Um, but I found out some really interesting ideas, and we've been spending a lot of time feeling our way on trying to figure out what the standard operating procedures are going to be around the Capitol. The House basically has indicated we're pretty much closed out of the House chamber and buildings for the entire session. The Senate would like to revisit that in March and perhaps open it up some. But with the slow turnout, I think, of the vaccine or turnaround of the vaccine, I don't anticipate they will open any earlier than the House. So it looks like everything's going to have to be done electronically, either with the Zoom video or with telephone calls and texting and that sort of thing. Um, but actually, I have to admit, it's not going too badly. You don't. It certainly makes the job a little more difficult to track people down, and especially when you want something to happen. But I think all in all, people have been very responsive, and the leadership has indicated both in the House and the Senate that they expect their staff to be responsive to people that are calling, and to the lobbyist corps, they want people to be responsive to the lobbyist corps in terms of what our concerns may be about different legislation and give our, of course, our never-ending advice on different issues and those sorts of things. But anyway, I think overall, I think the feeling is not nearly as grim as what I thought it was going to be. Everybody, I think, believes we can get the job done. In fact, I guess we don't have any choice but to get the job done because the state's got to keep running and keep surviving. So anyway, we're in now the third week of the session already. The first couple of weeks they had a few hearings, but they really up the speed of hearings this week. I know today I had 6 hearings the whole day that I had to watch, which is a lot of hearings in one day. But actually, with the electronics, and sometimes I have to have 2 computers going at once and the TV to listen to everything. You can get the job. You can get the coverage you need to get the job done and find out what's going on. So the only savings grace in all this is everybody's got the same dilemma, and frankly, legislators have the same challenges to a degree that we have, because they just can't walk down the hall and talk to their colleagues. They've got to figure out where their colleagues are at, and a lot of legislators are working from home and the Capitol both. And but again, the electronics seems to be working pretty well, and as of right now, I don't have any real concerns other than how things are going to end up once it gets to be crunch time. But again, people are getting more acclimated to it, and I think they feel good about things. The Going through some of the bills that I've seen pop up. A couple of bills we've had this money for RIM appropriations for the bonding bill, about 15.5 million. There's going to be someone is proposing some open meeting law changes based upon the um, using electronics, trying to give people an opportunity to make sure that when you do have a meeting by electronic, I guess by video, they do they do want people to be able to at least give statements. The public, they want the public to be able to give statements and address the boards. And I think they want to mandate that. That's from a quick glance at the legislation. We haven't heard anything about the Clean Water Council yet and how that's going to proceed, but my guess is that will be introduced. The LCCMR bill is out there, and that's going to obviously see a lot of hearing time this session, and hopefully that can be worked out. Right now we have one bill that may be a bit controversial. The townships are asking us about why they have to pay for culverts when we have a project that we're working on. And I guess we'll have to try to talk to them and see what we can work out with them, if anything. So they're willing to sit down and talk to us, and that's good. That's good news. But other than that, it's again pretty low key right now. The deadlines have not been established. The committee deadlines and the first and second and finance committee deadlines. Hopefully we'll have those in another week or two, so we get a little bit of an idea of what kind of time crunch we are under. I think we've been told that they're not going to be spending a lot of time on policy if there's not agreement. If there's agreement, I think policy can be had, policy language, new legislation. But if there's not agreement, I don't think you're going to see your committees spending a lot of time arguing over the video, over the internet, or this policy or that policy. It just isn't that conducive for those kinds of arguments. So maybe it will force people to sit down and work out their disagreements. So that would maybe be the plus side of that. But if not, I don't see them spending a lot of time on policy unless it's pretty much agreed to by the time it's introduced. So they're going to be spending the bulk of their time on the budget, on financial issues. There's a $1.2 billion deficit, which in the scheme of things isn't that big. If you add the inflation onto that, it's probably closer to $3 billion, $2.5 billion. But they don't necessarily just take the inflation as an automatic. They do look at the individual programming and deal with it, I think, in that construct. So with that, we're going to be working this year on the preserving clean water funds for local implementation for watershed districts and all the other local units of government. We're going to be trying to make some inroads into $250,000 general levy limit, seeing if there's a way we can try to coax some people into increasing that for us, or at least taking a look at it and having some discussions on it. We are working already on the bonding, flood hazard mitigation programs. We have meetings set up with the chair of the bonding committee in the House and the chair of the bonding committee in the Senate to start talking to them about the watershed district flood hazard mitigation programming, and most of that, almost entirely that, is the Red River Management Board issues that they have, and I'm working with their lobbyist Lisa Frenette, and we'll be spending a lot of time on that to try to make sure we get adequate funding for their needs up there. And also we'll be there to monitor. We had some legislation in the last couple of years that would have impacted our authorities and ability to protect water and do our job. So we're going to be making sure that nothing like that gains traction this year. So it's going to be I think a slower year than normal, but there's still plenty of ideas. When the first meeting, junior lobbyist meeting I went through, there was a revisor there, and he indicated that someone asked him about the low number of bills at that time. There were like not even 200 bills introduced, which is a little, fairly low, frankly. And he said not to worry, that we would get plenty of bills because they had over, at that point, 1,600 in the queue that were being worked on by his staff, trying to get back to legislators so that they could be introduced. So it looks like that's pretty close to a couple thousand bills already. People have ideas for and are working on. So it looks like the number of bills that are we're going to have to work with is going to be there, and more than sufficient to keep us all busy. So with that, I believe I'm going to sign off and let you know that I know we're still trying to work out the format on the legislative breakfast, and hopefully we can maybe have something where I can be a little bit more interactive with folks, so you can ask me questions and I can answer some of your concerns more directly. So again, I'm working on that, seeing what we can work out. So with that, I'm going to sign off, and let me know if you have any questions or anything. You can always drop me a line on my email, and I'd be happy to try to answer you. With that, I'll conclude this update. Thank you very much.